Welcome to the Homeschool Together podcast. Where one working mom and a stay-at-home dad help you navigate the nuts and bolts of the growing and dynamic world of homeschooling.
With a focus on early learners, like me.
All the ins and outs of building and maintaining your homeschool life.
Homeschool.
Find out tips and tricks to make things like this easier.
I'm reading.
And ultimately, enjoy educating your kids. And what's that last thing?
Have fun together. Did I do good, Daddy?
Yeah, you did, sweetie. Good job. Hello and welcome to Homeschool Together. Today we're going to be talking about a very difficult subject. Teaching through the tears, I think is what we have it titled. But before we begin, if you could head down to the show notes, feel free to connect with us on social media. Ariel is leveling up her Instagram game. And join us out on Facebook. That would be really nice because we have a nice little community there, and feel free to ask questions. And we also have our resource guide. And then I think whatever we talk about today, we may have a few things to recommend, and those will also be in the show notes as well. So today we're talking about teaching through the tears.
Which is kind of a funny, it's really about building motivation in your kids, you know, to do some of the formal lessons, right? There's things that we all don't want to do. And how do we motivate our kiddos? We had a listener, Lindsay, who wrote to me on Instagram. Thank you, Lindsay. And asked about building motivation. Her son often digs his heels in when he gets to doing phonics or math work. And, you know, how do you, what language do we use? What expectations can we set? What are our tips and tricks to help get over when the kiddos are like refusing to work with us? So we wanted to talk through that today, what we've experienced and some things we've seen and where we found success.
You know, when you always Google problems like this on, you know, Google and whatnot, and you see what people have to say, you get a million different answers. There's a million different solutions, and there's no way that we can, you know, give everything. I think what we'll do is we'll try to give you the mindset on how to approach it to maybe find the right answer. A lot of times this is, you know, like you always hear that one parent who has my kid only falls asleep on the washing machine and in their carrier. It's like, how did you get there?
That baby, yeah.
That one baby, right? Well, they figured, you know, that was the one thing that worked, right? And
Right.
I'm not saying yours is going to be like that, but you know, there's a lot of different solutions to a lot of different problems. We'll give you some ideas, some tips and tricks, how we've been able to overcome this. You know, all of us are focusing on early learners, and early learners, we all know, can be very stubborn. And if they don't want to...
I think learners of every age, I can be stubborn.
Oh, well, sure.
You know what I mean? I think the problem
course.
is that the reason that your child is refusing, or, you know, maybe not just refusing, maybe they don't want to, they're going along with it, but they're not happy about it. They don't want to do those formal lessons. There could be so many causes, and that means that the solution is tailored differently. So we'll give you just an overview of what we think some of those causes could be, for you to try to be very curious. That's what we tried to do with our daughter. We've had these struggles. I think every homeschooling parent, right, who's tried to get their kids to do homework even from regular school, has had these struggles. Even if it's not schoolwork, it could be chores, or, I mean, gosh, my kid digs her heels in when we try to get her to brush her teeth or go to the bathroom. So it could be anything.
Or go to bed. Or just go to bed.
It could be anything, right?
Yeah.
It really could be. And, you know, there's a lot of different ways. And so what I would say before, if you're having a problem like this with your child, with anything, we found that the right answer always is to be curious.
Curious and communicate.
Right. To be curious about what's going on there. Because it's not just that your kid's being a jerk, even though we sometimes feel like our kid's being such a jerk. Right. It's not that. There's something under that. So stay curious with us on this journey as we'll talk about some of the things.
Stay curious and keep exploring.
Yeah. Emily's Wonderlab. I watched way too much Emily's Wonderlab on Netflix. So yeah, stay curious with us as we talk through this and try to think about what could be behind your child's behavior. Every time that we've come to a roadblock with our kid, you know, we get frustrated and we power struggle over something. And when we do that, not only do we not usually get the result we want, right? Like, oh, I'm going to power struggle with her about brushing her teeth. And when she goes to do it and she does like half the job and doesn't do it very well and gets toothpaste all over the bathroom sink. And it's like, that wasn't the expectation. That wasn't the result I wanted. And it also hurt my relationship with my daughter. So power struggles are just never the right answer, even though we do them too. It's just like, that's the first thing you want to do when your kid's like, no, I don't want to do it that way. I want to do this, and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, you shall, I'm the parent, right? I mean, that's the first thing that we do, right? It's not that we mean to be that way, but.
Can you give us your Moses voice again?
Oh my gosh. It just, I have this.
These are 15, 10 commandments of nighttime routine.
You know, I feel like it's so natural, right? Because the things we feel as parents that we ask so little of our kids, right? I do everything for you. Now I would like you to go poop, right? This is the question, right? This is the thing that I want my kid to do, right?
It's the little things.
Yeah, you've been farting all day. I need you to go to the bathroom. And she's like, absolutely refuses. And the first thing that we want to do is be like, this is ridiculous. This is such a small thing to ask of you. Why won't you just do it? And we get authoritative. And whenever we do that,
because that tends to be the easiest route. It's not, it's, communicating.
It's a natural route. It's a natural reaction, I think, that we have to it, right? And nothing tightens it up faster than being authoritative, right? The last way we're going to get her to go to the bathroom is that way, right? But we do it. We fall into that hole, and we don't want to be that way, because if we're curious about it and we come to realize, oh, it's because she really wants a book and she really wants a certain book or something. I mean, it could be something we're not even thinking of.
Yeah. So let's start into what are some, common issues why a kid will refuse to do, whether it's learning or anything in general. But, in this case, let's talk about learning, the homeschool environment, doing the things we need to do for education.
So when our kid refuses to work with us, we've commonly found that one, she's been overstimulated, right? Yeah. She either is currently being overstimulated or has just been, right? She had an 11-day with grandma yesterday.
Where did we hear this? We heard that this wasn't Super Nanny, was it?
No, I don't know if it was or not, but we, if your kid has all these different levels of a day, right? If your normal average day is like a 5, right? Where, there's ups and there's downs and things are pretty normal, but then you go to the zoo, that's an 11, right? That's a day that's off the chart. It's so overstimulating. Then the next day you come back and you try to do another day at a 5, and sometimes we have trouble getting our kids to recalibrate, right? And we've totally seen this, especially coming home from grandma's house.
Yes, when we come from grandma or Nana Papa's house, we are coming down off of an issue. Like if she goes away for a week or whatever, and then she comes back after a couple of days, it takes us a day or two to get it back into normal.
Right. Rather than those days being 5s, we would need those days to be like 2s so that, it's extra light. It's extra calming. We can't just step right back into our normal routine, depending on the day that they've had. So overstimulation, that can be just a big problem.
Well, and what dovetails well with that is the idea of being tired or amped, right?
Right. Yeah. Oh, there's nothing worse than trying to homeschool a tired child, or a child that is so excited to go and, what if we've had this happen, right? We have a play date set with a friend for lunchtime, and you're in the morning and you're trying to get her to homeschool, and she's just bouncing off the walls because she cannot wait to go play with her friend.
I'm going to play today. I'm going to play today. It's
right.
Amazing, yeah.
And so, she's too amped. That's just not going to work. Or she's overtired, right? We missed our homeschool window. We have to homeschool when we would normally be doing nap time. And that's just a recipe for disaster. So, tired kids, everybody knows is bad, but amped kids can be just as bad, if not worse sometimes, because they're scatterbrained, right? Their brain is just going in so many directions, and the last thing they want to do is sit down and focus on something that is not super exciting to them.
Next one, hangry. When they are not just hungry, they're hangry.
Yeah, this is a big one, right?
The little one is doing this, where she's 2 years old, almost 2 years now. And she is absolutely hangry when she wakes up from her nap. And if she does not get something, she's going to be chewing on the walls. She's going to be screaming at you.
Yeah, well, and with our early learners too, right? Kids in the preschool and early elementary stage are growing in some rapid bursts, right? We've noticed times where we felt like our daughter wasn't really growing, and then all of a sudden we cannot get enough food into her. She is eating constantly, and she'll sprout up a couple of inches. So you just be mindful of your kids' growing cycles. That, hey, we have a routine, right? We have breakfast, and then mid-morning there's a small snack, and then there's lunch, and there's an afternoon snack, right? We have like this, but that cadence might not be working if your kid is going through a growth spurt. So be aware of the hungry, which quickly turns to the hangry, and all bad things sprout from that.
Hey, listen, I get hangry. I know.
Right? Yeah, I do. Grab Snickers.
Yes, yeah. Not brought to you by Snickers. Next thing would be about the subject matter. So sometimes the subject matter that they might be learning might be a little bit boring or interesting. Or that they could be frustrated with the learning, like in some way that maybe they're not getting it, they don't like it.
The last time that they did that, we've had this with our daughter with reading, right? The last time that we did it, she really, really struggles with it. So the next time we try to do it, she remembers, right? She's remembering that she struggled with this and had a really hard time with it, and she doesn't want to do something hard. Right. So, yeah, that definitely a frustration, or she was really bored the last time, and why would she want to pick that up again? So,
well, and the next one would be a relationship or lack of connection. I see this a lot of times when, I might have a morning where I'm, the baby is very needy and I'm having to deal with her a lot. And the older one is off, kind of playing in the kitchen or doing her thing in her room, or, maybe we're playing downstairs, and I'm really, really having to be attentive to the younger one. And then all of a sudden the younger one goes down for her nap, or we go off and do something, and we come back and, it's nap time for her, and then it's homeschool time. That the older one, she hasn't gotten a lot of attention all day, and now I've got to sit down and I've got to do schoolwork with Dad. And I would rather just play with him. I want to play blocks. I want to get my needs met.
Her cup has not been filled.
My cup has not been filled by my daddy, and they're going to fight you in that respect. And that's another thing you have to consider. That's something I've seen a lot. That's a very subtle one, but that's kind of that jealousy factor when you have the multiple kids. And you may see this if you have 2 or 3 or 4 kids that you're all trying to homeschool. How do you apportion your time respectfully between them so that you can then achieve the things you need to achieve? And how do you manage that? That's a thing that I've seen a lot.
Yeah, we find the best success with our daughter when her cup has been filled with connection with us, with stimulation by being outside and getting some outside play, by being well fed and hydrated, not having to go to the bathroom or anything, right? And by by that calming environment. So, like, we're going to kind of talk through some of the solutions to some of these, and stay curious about which of these problems, or maybe there's a different problem that you're experiencing that could be the root cause of why your child is pushing back on some formal lessons.
So we were brainstorming for this. We were thinking, how, or mainly you're bouncing off my head, like, what are the issues that you see, when you're homeschooling with the kids. And we broke it up into 4 things that I think are like the core of the problems. The first one is kind of the spatial issue, environment and time. Then I was thinking, okay, so it's a time element. So once I get past the environment and time issues, I have the beginning, which is the preparation. I have the next is the implementation, and then like roadblocks and ending. Like how do I end the day? And it's all through that time of the education time. So we'll talk about each one of those kind of individually, some issues that we run into, and how, I've been able to kind of break through that. So the first one is the environment and the time.
Right. So this is all about having an environment that's going to be conducive to focus and learning. So we found that we had made a wonderfully colorful and dynamic homeschool space. And there was lots of stuff on the walls and lots of interesting things to look at. And they were just too interesting.
Yes.
So we found that our daughter did best when we simplified. Right. We made sure that the room was pretty clean, right? If it's too cluttered, that just becomes very distracting, that it's quiet.
Well, in our environment's a large bonus room. We have our bonus room upstairs, and it's kind of like a playroom. There's a lot of toys in there. And then also in the corner, we have the homeschool area. And I specifically make sure that she is turned away from the room. So we're up against the corner and the wall right by the TV. And her not seeing all the toys and everything is very
Mhm.
helpful. She has to literally crane her neck around to go see it. So being able to just focus, okay, I just have the stuff in front of me. I just have the wall and here's my daddy. That's a good way to just like initially take away those kind of distractions.
Well, right, and it's
And
really hard.
and the large windows are behind us too, so she can't see outside.
Yeah. You've faced her towards that, so it's not distracting. We also don't have our younger daughter sitting there playing with blocks behind her, right? So there is some homeschooling that we do when the younger child is in the room and she is playing, but it's okay because it's things that our daughter's excited about doing, reading stories or doing some art or doing some other engineering type blocks and different things. But if we're talking about, reading and math, the things that we need real focus for, we can't do that with another child doing something distracting in the room.
I found that to be the case. Now I'm hoping that within the by the end of this year, that the older one will be a little bit quieter, and maybe we can start doing homeschool together. I'm actually eagerly looking forward to that.
Yeah, if our younger child was
Yeah.
sitting there reading a book, I don't think that our older would be distracted.
No,
I don't think she would have a problem at all. But
but I have this like baby toddler thing.
we have a
going
toddler that's, they're walking chaos, right? And
Yeah.
so it's much more interesting to pay attention to her sister than to pay attention to the lesson. And so she's definitely going to put up some issues with wanting to start.
on. Absolutely, yeah. And the next thing that we make sure is that we pick that right time. So the toddler, when I'm doing the very focused stuff like the reading and math, that's the stuff that I found that it needs to be quiet. I have to pick the right time, and I've had to do this huge shift in our schedule. Our whole daily routine has just been shifted because we've had to give up the morning nap for the baby in lieu of just the afternoon nap. And in doing so, our older one has been basically not napping, doing her quiet time and whatnot. So I have now given up on the afternoon nap for the older one, and then used the front half of that nap, that first hour of the nap, to do those more intensive, one-on-one learning activities, those lessons that I have to accomplish. And I've had to do this huge shift in my whole day.
But it's actually been a better time of day for her because
She's already played.
she's played. So for us, find your child's right time of day. So for us, by doing this in the afternoon at like 1:30, right? Our daughter has already been outside. She's already been playing all morning with her sister. She's had lunch. She's gotten to see mom because I always, I sometimes am able to take lunch away from my working remotely at home. So she's gotten some of me as well. She's gotten some of her cup being filled. And then sister goes down. Everything is quiet. And she's had all these needs already met. Right. So I think that's a big part of it. So finding your child's right time of day. We used to do it in the morning and
around 10 o'clock. Now we're doing it about 1:30.
Right. And it used to be that you would have to get them outside really early in the morning in order for her to be, even then her cup was like semi-filled, right? She'd eaten breakfast at 8. So maybe you could do a small snack, but it was a little bit dicey in the mornings. You've had much more success with this afternoon because it seems like she's in a better frame of mind in that early afternoon time frame.
I think it's not that I think she can nap. I just think she's calmer. She's been, a lot of her energy's been burned off. And she's just, I think, more receptive to the lessons. She's not as antsy. She's not as amped up. So for me, I've been able to, and it took a lot of observation to find that, okay, that's going to be the good time. And we gave it a try, and it's been really working. It's been working well. Next thing, so that's kind of environment and time. So kind of considering those two things to not necessarily that you got to have the perfect environment or the perfect time, but those are things that you may need to shift around and change and maybe is impacting your homeschool life.
Right. What we're trying to do with these is, how do you set yourself up for success, right? You could do all the things we talk about and still be struggling because of one of the issues we talked about at the beginning. Yeah. And then you can try to get to the bottom of that. But all the rest of this is just helping to set the stage for success. Once you get through, if your child's having some specific issue with something, then, obviously you have to tackle that. But this is the rest of it that sets up the playing field so that you can be as successful as possible.
And always experiment, like what Ariel said, is, be curious, think about different things. I've tried a couple times where I have, told my oldest, say, hey, let's do homeschool downstairs. Or, when it was in the summer, let's try to do homeschool outside. Let's try to do homeschool here and there. And I'm always testing different areas because, maybe she'll do better there. Maybe she'll do better over here. Almost all of them have been absolute failures because there's other things that are just distracting her when she's somewhere else. But try it, right? Test it. Try it. Give it a try. It's not the end of the world.
What have you got to lose?
Yeah, what do you have to lose? You're homeschooling almost every day.
Right.
You might as well, try to see if you can discover something new that can help. And also doing fun things like going to a picnic and doing some homeschool there. That might be a fun way to get away. Like if you have to do a nature study or you have to do some science, it might be fun to do that at the park. Just think dynamically. It doesn't always have to be upstairs in the homeschool room. You can always try different things and see if those work. I have not had much success with homeschool outside of the homeschool room or the homeschool area.
Well, I think it really depends, right?
It depends on what the subject is.
Right. Doing nature stuff outside or even doing art outside has been fine. But when we're talking about these subjects that are, less fun, right? We're talking about our math, reading lesson or phonics reading, handwriting, the things that kids don't gravitate towards wanting to do. Those are the things that, usually we get pushback. I think hopefully very few of you get pushback about doing things like art and nature, but, yeah. So definitely try to mix it up.
So the next thing is, you have a good environment, you have your good, the time you're doing. Next thing is preparation. You may have issues with preparation. You may have issues with getting started. For me, I'm under such not a time crunch, but the minute that baby goes down, we got to get moving, right? Because it's like 120 minutes. That's all we got. We can do all of our work during that time frame. I can't spend 30 or 40 minutes finding all my stuff, getting all my paperwork down, figuring out what lesson I'm on, things of that nature, because I'm burning very valuable time.
Well, and you're burning patience with your learner, right?
Yes.
So if you go in and say, okay, hey, come on, let's go in, we're going to do math. And then you go in and they sit at the table ready for math.
They're kicking their feet and they're looking around.
Right. And they're getting bored every second that goes by. You're
pages,
trying to find what you got to do. You're trying to get your manipulatives, all those things, right? That's a point where you could lose them and then they could be, I don't want to do math, right? Because to me, this motivation question isn't just about them saying, no, I absolutely refuse to do it. It's also them just losing interest and being so distracted or bored or unengaged that you spent your time going through this lesson and they didn't get anything out of it, which I think is almost as bad, if not worse, as them saying they don't want to do it at all, because you've then wasted your time teaching something that they're not going to remember and you're probably going to have to reteach tomorrow. Right. So that's just the worst.
Yeah. And so ways I get around this is that, Ariel does the Trello stuff and we do Trello for planning. And so I already know ahead of time what I need to do for the day or what are the items that I can pull in for the day that I can do during this time frame. So my mind's already set on it. Like sometime around 11 or 12, I start thinking about, what do I need to accomplish today at the homeschool room? Okay. I have to do a math lesson. I need to do my reading lesson. And then we're going to do some art. So I'm thinking about it. Maybe I pull down a couple little things. I know my materials are positioned in the right area. I know right where I need to go. All my manipulatives are on the shelf. It's going to only take me 2 or 3 minutes to get stuff together. Very often when I go upstairs, I'm like, hey, I need you to go potty. Tactical pee. Thank you, Bluey. Tactical pee. Get upstairs. I'll be up there in a minute. I'm putting sister down. You can play for a couple minutes while daddy gets ready. And when I get into that room, I go right to the table. I start pulling everything out. I set it all up and I'm ready to go. Maybe 2 or 3 minutes. I then give a warning. So I don't stop her immediately on what she's doing because I've now given her the ability to go play. I need to give her a warning. Okay, you got 2 more minutes and then you can come back. I give her a 1 minute warning and okay, sweetie, let's get going. A lot of times she'll just stop and come on over. Right? Because she knows, okay, it's homeschool time. It's not like, hey, let's go up to the bonus room. Oh, guess what? It's homeschool time. She knows baby's going down. It's homeschool time.
But this is part of the preparation as well, right? So
Yeah.
The next thing we want to talk about is setting those expectations.
Exactly.
So in the morning, she already knows what's coming, right? We've already talked about it. During breakfast, we say, okay, great, honey. Well, so today this is what we're going to do. Oh, you're going to go outside and do nature walk with daddy and sister. And you're going to do this. You guys can play for a few hours.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have lunch with mommy today. Then when sister goes down, we're going to go do homeschool. We have a short math lesson to do. And then we're going to do this reading lesson. And then we'll be all done and you can play for the rest of the day, right? We've given her a total schedule. Now, best laid plans, right? It doesn't always go that way.
Exactly.
Oh, the baby's having a meltdown. We can't go on our nature walk. I mean, things change, but she kind of knows what's coming. And then when you sit her down in the homeschool room too, the first thing you're doing is telling her again for the second time that day, this is what we're going to be doing. Hey, we just have a short math lesson and then this short reading and then we'll be done. And then we're going to sit and do art, right? So again, giving her the expectation of exactly what's coming for her. And this is now the second time she's heard it. It's not a surprise to her, right? If you go, hey, we're going to go do homeschool, and you go up to the homeschool room, you're like, okay, math. And she's like, I don't want to do math. She already knows, right? She's already, the expectation's been set that math is coming and it's today and we're going to go ahead and get this done.
And the reason why we really focus on the setting the expectations verbally with them is that because that is something we've seen, because we're paying attention as a moment where we can get the frustration level up to max level, not only for her, but also for us. And this is one of those things where I head off the confrontation ahead of time by telling her what my expectations are, what are our plans. And yeah, listen, I get feedback. She goes, Daddy, I don't think I want to do that today. Or I don't want to do, a nature walk today. I'd like to go play in the backyard. Okay, great. We can pivot. That's not a problem. But she knows all the things that I have planned. She goes, oh, I don't want to do homeschool today. I'm like, well, I'm sorry, sweetie. We have to do our activities. Is there something else you'd like to do as well? We can add that into the schedule, right? I do negotiate. I do negotiate with terrorists, but, but she does know that this is coming. We're going to do this. So I really agree. And that goes with the attention span, right? Understanding, what your kid is expecting and what they are focused on and what they're doing or what they're willing to do. You can head off that frustration when they feel like they're being yanked away from something they want to do, or they're being taken away from something that they would rather do. If they don't know that they're going to get that opportunity today, they may be in conflict with what is coming, right? Because they may think, well, if I do homeschool today, I'm not going to be able to play outside. No, because you've set, you've laid out the whole day. You will be playing today. You will be going to do these things. So by doing homeschool, you're not in conflict with the things you want to do.
Right.
Because I think a lot of times she thinks it's an either or, but in a lot of cases it's an and. You're doing both things.
Right. And just the expectation part is so important in that. And you talked a little bit about attention span, and one of the ways that we use this too is in your preparation of what you expect of them is we know how long she can stay with a lesson.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Okay. So she's got a 15-minute max for math and a 10-minute max for reading. I'm just making this up. It does change, but know the attention span of your kid. Like if you've only got 10 minutes and 10 minutes is all you can do with them, then know that and make that part of your plan. Don't try to plan a 20-minute lesson for reading when you just know that your kiddo's going to have a problem at that 10-minute mark, right? So again, you set yourself up for success by understanding what their limits are based on their age, right? So we see these things like, right start math we're doing, and you've got this math lesson. That whole math lesson may be 25 minutes, but maybe you don't have 25 minutes to go. That means that you need to make an adaptation. So maybe you're going to pick a good stopping point and you're going to stop halfway through, and that's going to be the point because that's the attention span of your kid. And you do the next part later in the day or the next day, or you may have to make some changes. So understanding the attention span of your kid when you're making your expectations is super important. Set yourself up for success.
Absolutely. Next thing is tone. It's something that really irritates me personally is tact and tone. I always say that to you. I didn't like the tone. Having the right tone with the kid about the activities that they're going to be doing, whether they're things that they like to do, like, hey, we're going to the jumpy house today, or we're going to go play outside today. That's really fun. Also, homeschool is fun, right? I'm looking forward to these things.
Right. Not, well, we got to do our math now.
Yeah. Like I really think kids, they latch onto, what you're saying, and they can pick up the inflection in your voice and understand if that's something you enjoy or not enjoy. We laughed about this. You don't have to be the kindergarten teacher of the year or the first grade teacher of the year.
Right. We're not super peppy.
Yeah, we're not. But stay positive. And that can be a hard thing to do, especially if you know, hey, I've had 2 straight bad days. Man, this is going to be just tough. And you're not, and personally, you're not looking forward to it
Yeah.
because you're afraid that it's going to end up like the last couple days. I really encourage you to just try to push through that, try to put on a happy face, be positive. And a lot of times I like to do is acknowledge. It's like, hey, we've had a tough, a difficult couple days, and Daddy's really sorry for those hard days, and I think today's going to be better. You ready to work with me today?
Yeah, today's going to be a good day.
Today's going to be a really good day, and be positive and say, I am looking forward to doing this with you because I'm excited about you learning these things. And being like honest and authentic in those manners, I think really comes through. I think the kids pick that up. I mean, obviously not all kids. Some kids look right through you and go, "You're lying to me, Mom. I know it."
Yeah,
But,
yeah. I mean, your mileage may vary, but we found that we can't go wrong with a positive tone, right? Yeah. Maybe that isn't always the be all end all, but we can't go wrong with it. The other thing we wanted to talk about a little bit, you set the expectations for the day and the agenda for what you're going to do. If you can allow your child to have a little bit of power in that, we've found good success with that. So, hey, we're going to do math and reading, and then we're going to do art together, and we're going to do nature walk. If our daughter says, can we do the reading first before the math, right? If it's something that you feel is not giving up kind of what you need to do, then, we let her have that power, right? If she wanted to say, can we do the art first and then do the reading and math? And that she's just putting it off because that's the part she doesn't like. We'll say, no, let's get that done first. And then we'll enjoy our time together for art more, right? We don't always let her, but if there is an ability to let her have some power in the agenda, they're more invested in it when they've had some power in setting it. So
we've talked about environment, the time, kind of like those dual things, setting up setting up the landscape. We talked a little bit about the preparation, coming into it the right way, setting the day. Next thing is implementation. And, how do you get going? How do you structure the actual moment where you sit down and do homeschooling? You've tried to do as much setup work as possible to be as successful as you can, but now you're getting into the nuts and bolts. You're in the room. That kid's sitting across from you. You got to go. It's got to work. So.
Right. You've gotten their agreement to do the lesson, right? Let's assume you've gotten through the absolute refusal, and they're willing to sit down and do a lesson with you. Now it's like, this is the part that always makes me nervous. I'm glad you do it. But, about some of these formal lessons, because this is the point where you got them to agree. You were positive. You said, okay, this is going to be great. I can't wait to learn this with you. And now you need to put your money where your mouth is, right? You need to make it fun. You need to not bomb, right? I feel like there's pressure there because
I know how stand-up comics feel.
Yeah. I mean, but you know what I mean? Like it's this moment where they've given you some of their trust. They were skeptical. They've done this math thing before.
It is still shocking that a 5-year-old walks into that room, sits down, and says, "Let's do math." I'm like, did that really just happen?
It doesn't always it's not always that way, right? There are times, right, where it is more difficult, but they've given you this little bit of trust that we're going to do this, and it's not going to be so bad, and I might even enjoy it. And then it's like, and you're on, right?
Yeah, you know what? I mean, oh man, do I even look at it like that? I don't even look at it like that. Some people go, the metaphor of being in the trenches and, you're going to battle every day. And I really don't see that, oh man, that's funny that you say it that way. Like,
well, that's what I think is like, you've done all these things, you've prepared them, you've done all your preparation, you have all your lessons outlined and everything. You've gotten their trust. They're sitting down. They're like, okay, Mom, I agree. We're going to do this. And then, boy, you better make it good because they've agreed, right? Well, but I don't do the math and the reading lessons with her, so that's the pressure I would feel.
Yeah, I look at it as, in the moment with a kid, and listen, she's a good kid. She works hard, but she can be frustrated and not want to do things and fight and whatnot, and I've gone through a lot of that. But I don't. When I get in there and I'm sitting down in the moment of truth every day at 1:00, 1:30. It almost feels like, okay, we have to clean the house, right? I gotta get the rugs. I gotta sweep the floors. I gotta mop. And I feel like, okay, I have a bunch of things I have to get done. And I don't see it as like I'm going to fight the whole way or that, I'm on in some respect. I don't know, maybe because it comes naturally.
I think it comes really naturally to you. I think that
Yeah.
you naturally have a way of making it fun. You also have a lot of experience with it, right? So you've been teaching
2
these,
years now, yeah.
and so you've kind of been through some of those early
Okay,
struggles.
so if I could go back in the Wayback Machine, it was freaking terrifying those first few days.
So there we go.
So I can totally go with you. And when we started the kinder curriculum, kind of unofficially last year at the kind of, we were talking about like May timeframe.
Yeah, May, June, something like that.
Yeah, those first few days was kind of scary because it was a new curriculum. I think some of the fear that you're thinking about is the familiarity with the curriculum.
Well, and it's also like, if today stinks, if this is boring for them, how am I going to get through the next 50 lessons? And I remember us having this discussion when
Yes.
you first started,
Yeah.
and you weren't sure exactly how to make it interesting. This was the point when
Yeah.
you were like, I'm terrified of teaching this because it was not going together. And this is when you developed the micro lessons. So I think we
Yes.
should talk about that, because this has been something that we've found a lot of success with micro lessons. And it's something that the curriculums don't naturally, aren't naturally organized that way. Like we talked about with, maybe the math is a 25-minute math. The reading exercises can be, how long would a reading thing be if you did from start to finish of an all about reading lesson?
An hour and a half, maybe.
Right. So, and it's meant to be done kind of over the week, but they don't, I don't know. They don't say that, right? They don't just say, oh, hey, do 15 minutes a day, right? And then
Yeah.
you'll get there. So I think that's, so the micro lesson was a big breakthrough for us.
Yeah, I think going back to, you're absolutely right. The micro lessons, it kind of goes all it kind of goes all together. The micro lessons, looking for breakpoints, folding in rewards.
So talk about the
observations.
rewards. Talk
Yeah.
about the way that you use this, because this has worked out really successfully.
It's all together, right? It's all my software background and working with developers and taking little nibbles of everything, right? The way we develop a million lines of code is you write one line of code at a time, right? And the way I write a book, one sentence, one chapter at a time, right? It's 1,500 words a day. Do it 80 days in a row, you'll have a novel, right? It's like getting that mindset of just like piece by piece by piece by piece, and attacking things in that manner, I think has been what I've brought to the homeschool room. And
Right.
So this idea of micro lessons. So I try to break up every lesson, and you got to guesstimate sometimes. Is this section, like in Right Start Math or in All About Reading, they have everything broken up into these kind of sub chapters within the chapter. It's like a section. Now, is that section a 10-minute section or is it a 2-minute section? You gotta read it real quick and say, okay, this is a 10-minute exercise, right? This is us switching letters, sounding out new letters, bringing in new letters, sounding out words, things of that nature. We'll do that for 10 minutes. That's a micro lesson, right? But I want to actually do 2 of these things.
And I think you keep them all to like at a time. You keep it to 10.
It does.
10 minutes kind of is your goal.
And this is where the art, 10 minutes, about 5 to 10 minutes, but this is the art, right? The art of paying attention. And this is where it all kind of comes together, where you have a small lesson and you're breaking up the day. And very often I don't hop subjects. I try to stay in math. I try to stay in the reading. But what I'll do is I'll bring in a little bit of rewards. So I'll say, okay, we'll do 10 minutes of math, and then we'll read a chapter in your celebrations book. And then or a page.
So
in the
some,
book.
our daughter is book motivated. Your child may be different, but ours is. And don't you have her say before the lesson,
Yes.
what book are we going to be reading? And she gets all excited
Yep.
while you're getting ready for the lesson. She's running around and grabbing the book she wants.
Yeah, she gets the books, and I say, I want you to find the page you want me to read. Because a lot of times they're just 2 pages, and I don't want to read more than about 2 or 3 minutes, and then we'll go back into the lesson.
Mm-hmm.
And I have her put bookmarks in, and so she's very rapidly finding the pages she wants, and she's very excited. And then that's something you can use during the lesson. If you got kind of a little sticking point, you can say, hey, we're going to read this page next. Let's get this done so we can go do this type of thing. So be really excited.
Right.
Those kind of like using the natural breaks and the rewards kind of together.
It's great though, because she's looking forward to that. You're like, you're not saying, oh, we got to do this huge lesson.
No.
You're just saying, hey, and you're showing her, we're going to do this one section, and then I'm going to do the thing you want to do, which is read these pages.
And I found that you can't really try to tease her out with multiple rewards. She's very, existential in that matter. She only cares about that next reward, right? So let's do this, and then we'll do your reward. It's something she can see. It's right next to her, off to the right, okay, great. I'll do this, and then Daddy will read me this book.
And so, we're getting into the subject of rewards, and this is one of those things where
A lot of people have sticking points.
a lot
on
of
these.
people do, right? And, there's this whole Alfie Cohen and intrinsic motivation, and we shouldn't give rewards. And here's my feeling about rewards in general. Rewards is the stuff of life, right? So this is what the adult world is built on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like doing laundry, right? But I do the laundry because the reward, well, it's nice to have clean clothes. I'm not going to say that's not a reward, but really the reward is that I just want to get it done so that I can go and read a book, or I can go do something else that I'm excited and passionate about, right? If I was just motivated to have clean clothes, I could do the laundry any time of day or evening, but I don't. I do the laundry in the morning because I want the rest of the day to not have to think about it and get to enjoy the other things that I want to do. I go to work every day because I get paid to go to work. That's my reward for doing it. I'm not intrinsically motivated to do my job as much as I love my job, right? So I feel like we deal with rewards all day, every day, in everything that we do. And acting like our kids should just be intrinsically motivated to do stuff doesn't ring true with me. Now, maybe a lot of people will have a problem and not agree with us on that. But for us, using thoughtful rewards and natural rewards too, like, hey, we're going to get these things done, and then you can have the rest of the afternoon to play. And that's also,
but it's
that's true, right?
It's going back and understanding what your kid likes to do. And the thing is, I'm reading her a page within a book that would be like a spine book within a homeschooling curriculum.
Yeah.
And she thinks it's a reward. And for me, it's like, I'm just doing more homeschooling. Right.
You are. But what if her thing was that she wanted to play to dance for 2 minutes? You would do that, right?
Yeah, we'd toss on some Charlie Parker and dance together.
Right. We're doing Charlie Parker this week for Blossom and Root. But yeah, so I don't know. I think that these micro rewards, the idea that all rewards are evil, and some rewards definitely work at cross purposes to what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
And they'll negatively affect things. And maybe that's what this intrinsic motivation is trying to talk about. But small and strategic rewards can work wonders.
Well, and the fact that you're accomplishing things. So the minute you accomplish that little 10-minute micro lesson, she gets the reward. But before she gets the reward, you give her the reward of, I'm super proud of you that you were able to accomplish. Look at this awesome thing you were able to do.
That's right.
And that positive reinforcement, so that when you're done with that reward, the reading or the dance or the whatever it might be, and you come back, she's like, I did really well the last time. I'm going to do well this time. It's just kind of that mindset and setting that mindset.
One of the things I would say about the reward is make sure that whatever you do doesn't get them too far from where they've been, right? You want them to come back to the lesson. So if it's...
Yeah, again, the reward cannot be long. It cannot be long because it takes them too far away.
Right. I mean, if it was like, oh, I want to sit down and play my video game for a minute, that's probably not going to work right. You got to find a reward that's going to be something that they'll enjoy and they'll look forward to.
I have used the apps. I've mentioned this before, using the Khan Academy, the Frederick app, those type of things before. I actually haven't been using a lot of apps lately. She's been really hot on books. And so I've just been kind of going with.
But those apps you usually used at the end of your homeschooling. Hey, honey, if you can get all of the things done that we have on our list, then you can do a little Khan Academy Kids for a while. That was an after thing. Yeah. You weren't expecting her to come back to the homeschool room, to the table. And, so the rewards that you choose need to be something that's small enough that you don't lose them. Mm-hmm. You don't want to have to struggle to get them to the table the first time and then have to struggle to get them back after their reward. So just, be cognizant of what you use, and books are a great thing to do.
Next thing is careful consideration of the child to ensure that they're still engaged. And this goes well with another idea, which is pacing. So being able to watch their eyes, making sure when you're losing them that you can kind of bring it up, change what you're doing. Maybe this isn't working. Maybe I should try something else. That goes back to the preparation. So when I'm doing this activity or I'm doing this lesson, then I have another way to do the same thing that might be a little bit more exciting. Thinking on the fly. I know that's kind of hard. It's like, well, how can I be creative on the fly? It's hard enough to do this stuff. But trying to have maybe a couple things in the back pocket. Like I'm in like the 50th lesson of the All About Right Start Math. So I have a lot of experience with the curriculum. I know all these different things that she likes. up at the beginning, I didn't know. And so it was a little bit more difficult at first. And once I had enough experience with these type of things, I don't think I'll have this problem going forward. It was like the very first time I started doing a reading or a math curriculum, and I was so new at it. I really didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't know how to think on the fly. I think going forward, like when we do the next level 1 or whatever, I'm going to be a lot better because I'll have already done 150 lessons, and I'm going to do the next one will be great because I know how to adapt. At first, it was very, very difficult. So my ability to shift on the fly has gotten better as I've had more experience. So if you're sitting there and you're still starting with this new curriculum, or it's your first few weeks, it's okay. Once you get a little bit of experience under your belt, you'll be able to test and play different things and see how your learner reacts to those things. And again, that's just another little thing in your tool belt and how to do that. Kind of goes well with it is the pacing. A lot of times I find that if I'm going too fast, like, hey, I have a math and a physics, math, science background, right? Math is very easy. I have to pull myself back a little bit, slow it down, do really thoughtful exercises because I feel like I move a little too fast. If you're more of an English or a language type of learner,
maybe you're going to move too fast on the reading then.
On the reading stuff. So like
Yeah.
I find with the reading, I'm very mechanical with the lesson. Not formulaic, I don't want to say that, but where I'm very much, I articulate the movements. It's hard to say like, okay, I'm spelling a word jet. Okay, now I have the little tiles. I'm pulling out the j sound for the l sound. Now what is the word let? Right? I'm like, it's very thoughtful in my actions. It's very similar to how I teach the math to her.
But you're doing a question and response, which
Yes.
is also a great way to keep engagement.
Yes,
That's
ask questions.
Ask questions. Ask them to clarify what you said, right? Switching roles. Can you help me to spell this word? I'm not sure how to spell it, right? And then they take over and they take the teacher role. All those bits of interaction are great ways to keep their engagement, because the problem is you can teach them all this stuff, but if their eyes glazed over and they missed it all, then you're going to have to teach it again. Or worse, you're going to get onto, you think they got it, you're going to go on to the next lesson, and then they're going to be upset and overly challenged because they didn't have the right preparation for that lesson, because they don't remember the previous one that they need to build on. So, making sure that they're engaged all the way through is really key. And asking questions helps you to know too whether they're really getting it.
Exactly. Next thing, doing warm-up lessons. This is some warm-up lessons, and this is something I've been doing a lot lately, and I have found this to be great. So, 0 to 60 in 2 seconds is too fast.
And not all curriculums have warm-up lessons, so you're
Yes.
making this up.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
like the Right Start Math has warm-up lessons. All About Reading tells you to do warm-up lessons, but they don't always give you those things. They say, oh, run through the cards or run through the letters and then start. And that's always nice, but I always like to change it up and do different things. I always like to have the warm-up lessons be that thing I'm trying to hammer home. Hey, you know the difference between 6 and 9. You know the difference between 7 and 5. And have her really practice that as the way to get her mind going and to build that confidence and kind of like ramp them up to speed, get them ready and going, and then you hit the ground running. I found just ramping up younger learners to the level where you need them so that they can begin doing the harder stuff way better than just saying, okay, we're going to start doing the math right now. And you're just like, it's very jarring to them.
Right.
And again, that's like paying attention, asking questions, watching their eyes, and you will get that. You will see it in their eyes, and that just comes with experience. And so like a lot of parents may have some trouble, try to focus and hone in on the learner and then ramp them into this. I have found that to be a very helpful thing, and it gets 2 birds with 1 stone. I'm doing daily review of things I know she's struggling with. And after a couple of weeks, now she's got that in her bag, and then I can shift it to another warm-up lesson that's hitting those things that she's kind of struggling with. And then I can ramp up into the lesson. So it's kind of like gets her ready for the day, but also I'm doing a short review and doing that mastery level of learning, kind of that repetitive cycling back on the learning. I found that to be very helpful and very effective.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that's good about this is there's a balance, right, between keeping your children challenged and letting them do things that they have mastery of so that they can enjoy that mastery. So and I think that Julie Bogart talked about this in her Brave Learner book, which is fantastic. If you teach them something and the moment that they get it, you go on to the next lesson and you start teaching the next thing. They never got time to like revel in their mastery of the thing that they learned. So one of the great things about these warm-up exercises is that, part of what you can do is give them the opportunity, if they just completed a lesson yesterday, and they did well at it, give them an opportunity to revel in that, right? Give them some words that that they can sound out so that they can have that feeling of confidence and accomplishment before you challenge them again. I think it's really easy for us to see that they got it and go, great, let's move on to the next place without letting them really enjoy that they have that. And it's such a confidence builder, right? I think that was a real problem. We recently decided with our daughter that in the evenings, I'm going to take out our All About Reading, our first book, which she's already moved through, and I'm going to go back and reread the stories with her in that, have her read them to me so that she can show me her mastery of those words and help build her confidence for when you're with her in the homeschool room and teaching her the advanced concepts. And I think that's going to work really well, just giving them the chance to celebrate their wins.
Yeah. Well, and also the idea of celebrating the wins is come down off your lesson with something that's positive. You'll ramp up with a warm up, you'll do your exercises, and then finish with something that they know is they can do.
Right.
Like
end on a high note.
Yeah, always end on a high note. I really find that to be a very helpful thing because you've done your hard work and it may have been frustrating. They may have not gotten everything. You may have been a little contentious at points and you may have had to pull them back into it, but have them finish with something they can do. It kind of ends with that positive note and they'll come back the next day remembering back the last thing that they did was a positive thing.
Right. If the last thing that they end on is something that they really struggled with, that they didn't quite get, and that was kind of the end of it, it does leave a sour taste for the next time.
It does.
It's very true.
It does. Okay. So we talked about environment, time, that implementation, preparation idea. Now we're going to talk a little bit about roadblocks, kind of that final point. So very often you get to a point, and I think most of the teachers here on podcasts or listen to this and they go, where are most of my roadblocks? Very often at the end of the lesson.
They're either at the beginning or their end. Usually, right? They're usually, you can't get them to start, or you lose them partway through and you can't get them to finish.
My biggest issues that I always see is right towards the end. And I have to make a decision towards the end on whatever lesson I'm doing. So maybe like I've done the All About Reading and I got to do Right Start Math and we're starting to struggle at the All About Reading. You got to make a decision. Is this a resilience lesson, or is this a they've done enough, I can back off and I can just end it here in a positive manner and then we'll pick it up the following day. Mm-hmm. Like that is a very hard thing, and that's something you have to think about in the moment, in line, while the student's learning, while they're starting to get frustrated. Have I done enough today, or should I push them just a little bit? And that it's always going to be in tune with what their attitude is.
Right.
Do you see it in their eyes? Can they move forward? Go ahead, maybe push just a little, get them through it. But also, is there a value in pushing through it? Oh, I have to read 10 pages in the story. We only read 2 or 3 a day. Is it valuable that I go to the 4th page? Maybe not. It's not worth the fight. She's done really well today. I want to end on a positive note.
Well, and you're building their stamina too, right?
Yes.
So this determination between, do I push through and teach them resilience? Even when something's difficult, you have to keep going. Mm-hmm. And there's a little bit of that. But at the same time, you also have to think about, like, is this so much of a challenge that it's too much, it's going to be off-putting for the next time, right? I'd rather they slowly build up the stamina of our learner so that, okay, well, maybe right now she reads 3 pages a day, and occasionally we push her to 4, and then maybe in a few weeks she's going to start reading 4 consistently. Mm-hmm. But if we always tried to push her to 8, you're going to lose that battle every time. Right. We need to slowly build her stamina up to longer lessons.
Next idea is the curriculum. You have to say, the question is, my child struggling with the curriculum. Is it the issue with the curriculum? Do I need to change up how I'm doing it? Do I need to maybe swap out a new curriculum? These are kind of the existential questions.
Right. This is a difficult one. Best laid plans, right? We as homeschool parents have put so much effort. I know that you all out there have done so much research about what curriculum to use. I see you. I've done so much research. It's
and they've spent money.
Yeah, well, you read about it, you're watching YouTube videos, reviewing it, you're looking through it, you're trying to determine what's going to be right for your child, you're considering your budget, you're considering the way that their learning style. You make this decision, you purchase this curriculum, and then maybe it doesn't click with them. And this is a point where you have to really think about and try to get to the root cause of why are they struggling with the curriculum. Is it the way that it's being presented? Are the lessons too long? And we've talked about micro lessons. Is it just that it's totally against their learning style? And then maybe that's not the right curriculum choice for you.
Or do you adapt it?
Yeah. But maybe, hey, it's not really the right curriculum choice. You won't use it next year, but this year you've already shot your budget on it and you need to use it. What if you've gone into something that's very heavily workbook focused and you have a really kinesthetic learner? You can't ditch the curriculum because you can't afford to buy a new one. So that's the point where you're going to have to be creative, and maybe you need to get out some manipulatives and add some things from around the house and try to make something, adapt the program to the direction that you need it to be. And maybe that's the right answer.
Or are they too young? Like in this case, you have a 5-year-old. Is it too young to start the reading curriculum? Is it too young to start the math curriculum?
Right.
Maybe
yeah.
we'll hold off for a few more months and come back and see if we go again.
Absolutely. We're all excited
we
to
were
start.
talking about this with our youngest, like maybe some of the struggle that we had when we started the curriculum with her was maybe she was too young.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But now I think she's really doing well.
She's doing great now. And I do think she was probably a little young, and it was really difficult because specifically with reading, our daughter was desperate to read. She wanted to read so badly. We felt compelled to start her on a kinder curriculum, even though she wasn't yet a kinder student. And we felt like, gosh, she might be too young for this, but she's begging to learn how to read, and her nose is buried in books constantly, and she wanted it so bad for herself. We felt like we had to do that, but it did lead to a lot of struggles early on because she was a bit too young for it. So, it's just never easy, but we would say when it comes to curriculum, if your child really isn't responding to it, you have to get to the root cause of what about this isn't working for them, and how can I change or wait or get a different curriculum or adapt or make some change. Because if you got a curriculum that's not clicking with your learner and you just keep pushing and pushing and pushing, you're going to be pushing against a brick wall. It's going to be such a trial. When you find the right thing that clicks with them, it's going to flow. When they're ready for it and it's the right thing, it just moves like clockwork. It really does.
Yeah, and you said a really good point of asking questions, and with these common roadblocks that we're seeing, that if you're getting to the end of things and it's still not working, obviously you can think about the curriculum. You could also ask the question as the teacher. You called it teacher surveys.
Yeah.
Ask your kid, and I've done this a few times where I ask my older learner, what can daddy do that makes this better? What can I do to make this more entertaining? Like, I'm at the end of this lesson, it's not very exciting to them. Is daddy not doing a very good job? Is this not interesting? How can I make this more interesting? And you'll be shocked at the advice that they'll give you. And you'll find, oh, daddy, I just don't like the way your shirt is bouncing off of your undershirt. It's not complimentary. Pink does not work with blue.
Yeah.
That type of thing. Like,
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah. I think it's okay, except that I have a really itchy foot.
Yes. I did not know. Itchy foot issues.
Yeah. Well, it would have, it just would be better if I could do it in my pajamas. Well,
okay. Go get the pajamas on.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes the answers are really small, or, they had a snack, but it wasn't quite enough. And they're just like, it'd be better if I could just have a few more Cheerios. I mean, it's some, and other times they could be like, yeah, that was really boring. I wish you would do it in funny voices or something, right? Sometimes it is stuff that you need to do, but sometimes the things are ridiculously easy to solve. And if we just ask the question, we can really get to the bottom of it.
They're not some strangers. Feel free to talk to them and communicate with them, and ask them how to improve things, and you'll be shocked at what you get. And the last one, big issue is that these are young kids. Their brains are all wiring up still. They're not 25 yet. They haven't finished wiring up, and they have big emotional issues going on, and their hormones are flying through and they're growing, and they're crazy time, expectations, and
big leaps in emotional and psychological development.
Huge leaps in development. And all of those things kind of flood into it. And you know what? Today just might not be the day. And you need to hold off for another day and do the lesson tomorrow.
Yeah. Whenever I feel like there's just, there's no explanation, right? When you talk to your kid and you're like, they're just fighting you, fighting whatever it is, going to take a bath, whatever it is, homeschool, and they're fighting, and you're just like, what's wrong? And they can't articulate it to you. That's when you know that the problem that you have is larger than I have an itchy foot, or I want to do this in my PJs, right? And we had this happen. Our daughter had just a huge spike in disrespectful behavior. She was lashing out. She was being rude. She was refusing to do anything. She was fighting with us all the time. And this was, I don't know, about 6 months after her sister was born. And we were like, what is the matter with you? Everything is fine. And it's like you turned into like a crazy monster child. What's happening? And she was, I don't know. It's like there was nothing we could solve. And I ended up dropping it in the time that we were having the struggle and just letting it go. And later, when she was quiet and she was calm, I laid with her and said, I just want to talk about it. And I just want to hear from you how you feel. Is there anything that's bothering you? And she said, yeah, I just feel like you spend more time with the baby than you spend with me. And I was like, oh, my mama heart, guys. Oh, it hurt. And I said, okay, is there anything that you're afraid of? And she was afraid that we loved the baby more than we loved her. I mean, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I did not realize that, we had a 6-month-old. It wasn't like the baby was brand new. We'd been living as a family of 4 for all these months. And I felt like everything was going well. And inside her little mind, she was having this whole big emotional issue where she had this need for connection and reassurance that I didn't even know about. So I would say if you are having a struggle and, your learner can't articulate why they don't want to do it and what the problem is and all of that, let it go. Just let it go. Move on with your day when they're calm and they've had time to reflect and it's quiet. I love talking to our daughter at night before I put her to bed. It seems like that's a time when the house is quiet and we turn on the low light in her room and I cuddle with her and she's in a very safe space and she feels, I think, that she can tell me anything at that time. And that's when I probe and that's when she told me all these things it was like a light bulb went off, right? So if you're really struggling with something and you just can't get to the root of it, you're going to need to probe at the right time and probe with, curiosity and sensitivity because they are just growing and changing so much right now. And I don't think any kid's trying to be a bad kid or a disrespectful kid. Or, doesn't want to learn. All children want to learn. All children are naturally curious. So if something's happening and, you just probe in a really thoughtful way with them when they're ready to talk, and I think you'll be kind of amazed at what you find with them and be ready. Oh, my mama heart was ready for what she had to say to me. But we moved on from there. And that's, it's the way you would do it if it was therapy or anything, right? Just talk it through.
Yep. Well said. I really feel everything you just said. Like that's,
I get choked up thinking about it right now because it was just so, I was not expecting.
I think adding connection, just increasing connection is not a bad thing. And increasing connection increases communication. Communication allows you to get through those sticky points. And
it increases trust, right? When you say that we need to learn this and it's important for you.
I hear you. I understand what you're saying. And I'm going to try and, do what I need to do. Most of the time, that's all they're expecting. You don't have to actually solve the problem. You just have to hear what they're saying. And they feel that trust. They feel that connection. And that's what they need. This was a little bit of a longer podcast, but it was a big question. And I think
this is a tough question,
I think we tried to really attack it from, a thoughtful pattern of ideas, environment, time as kind of the ground base, and then doing the preparation, implementation, and roadblocks, and kind of attacking it from that standpoint. And obviously there's no right answer, but hopefully you can get some tips and tricks, get some ideas, maybe reset your mindset on how you attack certain things. And hopefully that might help you if you're having challenges, get through things. That being said, as super intelligent and smart as we have, tomorrow's going to be another day, and I'm going to screw up somehow. So I eagerly
we're learning
await,
every day.
I eagerly await having to solve the next problem.
Yeah, we don't have all the answers, but Lindsay, I hope that this was helpful. I hope maybe we gave you a few ideas, and I hope that you find success with your learner and your struggles there. So, and to you all that you're listening to this, and if you have some just great things that you've used that have helped you, please reach out, put them on the Facebook group, help us all to learn from each other and get better. So, please reach out.
Let's end it the way we always do. We'll try to keep it short here. What we're into this week, Melissa and Doug felt sandwiches.
Yeah, we're into felt
food.
Felt food. Yeah, we're into felt food. This is something that our kids got for Christmas, and Melissa and Doug has a bunch of different felt sets. We'll link one in the show notes. We have the sandwich set, but they've got a bunch. So they've got pizza and sushi, and they've got a bunch, and they're just really cute and sturdy felt pieces. They're
great
safe.
Thing for the two kids to do. The 5-year-old and the almost 2-year-old.
They're like toddler safe, basically. Yeah. So it's something
great
that
imagination.
Our kids can do together. They can prepare food and pretend to eat it and pretend to serve us. And we did some international food with it. And so they were looking at pictures and trying to recreate different sandwiches and things.
Yeah. One of them was, I think it's you can make some sushi, you can make pho. They got some felt food in their most recent little passports. We'll talk about little passports on a future episode, but they took that and they added it to their felt sandwich set, and it has kept them entertained. It's really hard to find toys that are that you can play with at a toddler age and at an early elementary age both together, because it's so hard to get something that's baby, kind of baby toddler safe, that's still entertaining for 5 to 6 and older. It's hard for us to find things that they both can do together and equally enjoy. And felt food. Who knew? Felt food. Yeah, super easy. You pull it out. It doesn't take up a lot of space.
Yeah, it was great. It's easy to pack for them to play. They play together, and very affordable. So felt food.
We'll link it in the show notes. Take a look.
Thanks so much for joining us today and making us a part of your homeschool journey. Please engage with us on social media. Join our Homeschool Together podcast group on Facebook and find us at Homeschool Together Podcast on Instagram. We'd love to hear your feedback, questions, and recommendations. Until next time.
Happy homeschooling!